chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With Martin Sobu. A chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With Martin Sobu.
Do you think that Baba Obasanjo could be on the stage while these Boko Haram people are doing what they are doing?
The objective of the private organization is slightly different from...
Nigeria is the most important country
of education. The collapse of culture in Nigeria. Even with cheating, we can't pass.
We've not done enough. There's still more. Join us.
And you never regret that you did.
Hello and welcome. This is a chat to the professional show designed to x-ray the activities of professional individuals and corporate bodies. My name is Martin Subu, and as usual I'm sure glad to be with you. Today we are going to be discussing advertising, the subject matter. But the introduction will be after the short break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. You're still watching the show Chat to the Professional, and like I mentioned in my introduction today, we are going to be talking advertising, and we are looking at the roles of advertising in the socio-economic development of the continent of Africa. How far have we gone deploying the instrument of advertising, if you like, to achieve a sustainable growth in our economy? And I have no less a personality than the immediate past chairman of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, in the person of Lolu Akinwunmi, who also doubles as the Chief Executive Officer of Prema Garnet Ogilvy. My pleasure and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes, advertising globally. It does appear that if you look around the world, it hasn't done as much as it should on the continent of Africa, particularly at their country, Nigeria, in terms of shaping the economy. Let's just begin with what you think should be the ideal situation in terms of the roles advertising should play in the development of the economy.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to your program. One of the biggest challenges we have in this part of the world is that the users of advertising have not quite been able to define what they will do with advertising because they don't properly understand the role of advertising. In its most primary form, advertising is supposed to bring those who have things to sell and those who are the likely buyers, either products or services. But unfortunately, apart from perhaps a few really savvy clients, most clients and users of advertising treat it as something that is dispensable. If the economy is doing very well, they advertise. As soon as there's a bit of sluggishness, they stop spending.
Yes.
Some of them forget that perhaps that is the period when they should sustain their advertising.
Yes.
Because for every advertising campaign, there has to be an objective. So it's a combination of many, many things. Things have improved a bit, but generally speaking, I mean, from the most savvy client to the lowliest users of advertising, those in government, you find out that they really cannot put value on what advertising is supposed to do for them. So that is why you see that there's been inconsistencies in the use of advertising and inconsistencies in the result of advertising.
What you just said is instructive because take for instance Coca-Cola, without meaning to patronize any brand. Wouldn't have any need to advertise if it were a case of, okay, I want to just sell my product. Shouldn't advertising also be a function of saying, hey, we are still in business and we're a reputable organization, shouldn't also organizations begin to look at it as a form of social responsibility? Because when you also advertise, you create jobs, and you are sending out a signal that says, hey, I am reliable.
Well, there are many objectives for every planned advertising campaign. You run a campaign because you want to introduce a new product or service or brand. You run a campaign because you want to sustain a brand that is already in existence. You run a campaign because you want to match what your competitors are doing. You run a campaign for 101 reasons. You run a campaign simply because, like you said, you want to project the corporate image of your organization.
Yeah.
Coke cannot stop advertising because until recently, the #1 brand in the world in terms of name recognition and all that has been built and sustained by advertising. You cannot stop advertising. It can reduce advertising spend in certain areas, but a brand like Coke cannot stop advertising. It's not.
Yes.
It's. I cannot imagine Coke not advertising. They don't have a choice. They have to keep. They just have to. I'm not even talking of corporate advertising. The brand Coke must advertise. It operates in a fiercely competitive environment where you have Coca-Cola, where you have so many other, competing variables, and so I cannot see a brand like Coca-Cola stopping advertising. But at every point in time, there is a clear objective to why you are communicating certain information to your consumers.
But do you really need to be big to advertise? Because, for me, I think it's an erroneous impression that we have in this part of the globe. Do you have to be big to advertise?
If you are big enough to come into a market, then you are big enough to advertise. And don't forget that the very idea of big in itself is relative. It depends on the size of the product, it depends on the size of the market, it depends on the size of what you are trying to achieve, it depends on many things. I often come across, especially local brands and clients, and they say things like, oh, we are not big enough. When we are big enough, we are going to advertise. And I say to myself that one of the things that are going to make you big is precisely what you are not doing.
Yes.
But if you understand them well, what they mean is we don't think we have enough money to advertise.
Yeah.
But yes, we know advertising is not cheap, but there are certain things that you can do within the marketing communication mix that can project your image and project your message and project your ideas, and it's not wise really when you are selling goods and services and you are not involved in any form of communicating the values of these things to your clients. It just it doesn't make any sense at all.
Don't you also think that this is another area where we need to probably begin to educate our entrepreneurs? Even in our business schools, for instance, we always talk about corporate communications, and you go to organizations and the only thing they know about is when there's a press conference or a press release, they assemble the press and they churn out information. And when you talk about co-advertising, there seems to be a lot of years.
True, but in the last couple of years, between the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, AAAN, and APCON, they've expended a lot of energy and resources on educating people on the need to advertise. And that's why I had said earlier on that the situation is better. Unfortunately, we've had the kind of economy that hasn't run in any stable manner. Growth at times will be very low. Sometimes it's projected to be around 7–8%. And so what can sustain that type of education sometimes is missing. But it's a matter of time. At the rate at which the Nigerian economy is growing, at the rate at which investors are coming into the market, at the rate at which quite a few things are happening to this economy, people must advertise. It becomes a mandatory part of your survival plan, of your strategic plan to advertise, because in another, every day, the economy, the operating environment is becoming more competitive, more dynamic, everybody wants to play in this market, from Asia, from North America, from Europe, from our neighbors in South Africa. And advertising is what drives competition. It is what distinguishes what you produce from what your competitors produce. And for you to continue to make that distinction clear, I cannot see any other way that you are going to do it without at least spending some resources on advertising.
What about content in our curricula, the school curricula? Because, I mean, we have marketing offered by practically every higher institution in this country. And I'm not sure of how many of such institutions that major in advertising, but even when they do you think the content of our curricula is dynamic enough to meet up with the challenges of the time?
Again, it has improved because over the last couple of years, the government has given APCON the responsibility of administering the syllabus for advertising and related subjects in higher institutions. It's the responsibility that APCON has. And APCON is especially fortunate that those who are the helm of affairs there are people largely who operate in the private sector. But one of the gaps we have found is, about 4 months ago, I went to one of the universities to deliver a paper. And I found out that while the students were rich in theory, the smallest examples of global operations that I gave, they were not aware of them. They knew definitions, they were high on theory. So I could see that gap, but it's quite easy. It's not so difficult to fill that gap. All that needs to happen is to have a closer cooperation between the academia and practitioners, and then allow the students to spend more time in terms of internship. Not just in advertising agencies, but in the marketing department of clients that invest a bit in marketing communication.
But that's another pathetic area, because I'm sure as an employer of labor, you must have encountered students who probably came for industrial training and they are more interested in what you're going to give them. Whereas in the past, we had something like ITF, the Industrial Training Fund, that actually funded organizations to provide training. But now you have schools giving letters to students asking you to pay them stipend for training them. But don't go anywhere, we'll have to take a break. We'll take a short break now and we'll be back. Please stay.
Chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With smarties or wood. A chats with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chats with a professional. With smarties or wood.
Do you think that Baba Obasanjo could be on the stage while these Boko Haram people are doing what they are doing?
The objective of the private organization is slightly different from...
Nigeria is the most important country
of education. The collapse of culture in Nigeria. Even with cheating, we can't pass.
We've not done enough. There's still more.
Join us.
And you'll never regret that you did.
You're welcome back. You're still watching A Chat to the Professional, and my guest today, a special one at that, the immediate chairman, the immediate past chairman of APCON, that's the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, and the Group Managing Director, Chief Executive, Prima Garnet Ogilvy. I think, is it Africa or?
It's Africa.
Oh, okay. Prima Garnet Africa, Lolu Akinwunmi. Now, we've just talked about products and services. I'm talking about our economy. There are people who drive the economy, the policy makers. How much of advertising has as it were, have they applied in terms of brand building of their persons, their offices, such that the right messages are sent out to the public? Because beginning with campaigns, we have seen blunder, you know, if you like, here and there by the image managers of these individuals or political office holders or those who seek to become one thing or the other in government. So, looking at the way it's been run here and the way it's run in other developed societies, what would be your assessment?
I'll answer this in the most indirect way.
Okay.
Consider our government from the last couple of, as long as you can remember, even to the present government. The government, a new government comes into place at federal level, at state level, and they want to appoint those who will be in charge of their communication, and they appoint journalists, either print or radio or TV journalists. And it is not wrong, but they have refused to keep pace with development. The job, the best radio, print, TV journalists in the world is not suitably prepared to handle the responsibilities of modern brand building. A politician is a brand. General Buhari is a brand.
Yeah.
The President of America is a brand. He has to be nurtured before the election, during the election, and especially after the election. See, we will have time in the next couple of years to do a proper analysis of the Jonathan government. One of the defaults of the Jonathan government was that in the entire presidency, there was not one person who was responsible for building and sustaining the Jonathan brand. We had people who were attacking the other parties. We had people who were abusing journalists. They were doing everything. And of course, when you create a vacuum, and the APC was a very, very smart party.
Yeah, they took advantage.
They took advantage of it and defined the Jonathan brand. I've written one or two things on this. Yes. And I've said, okay, Buhari has two very experienced journalists, but they are not brand builders. The president needs a brand builder who will advise him on everything, excuse me, and project that brand daily. So if you aggregate this from government, as it were, to the private sector, you have people managing public communication, brand communication in private sectors who cannot write a simple brief. A bank head of corporate communication called us and said, just do a campaign for us the type you did for that bank. That was the brief. And so you find that part of the issue is that you have people who are sitting at particular desks, who are supposed to do certain jobs, who either don't know how to do it or are not equipped enough to do it. Yeah. And whatever you put in is what you are going to get out. It's a very serious situation. Even though we are trying to manage it now, the problem, the issues are still there.
But don't you also think that practitioners in the industry have a big role to play? Because in as much as I would want to agree with you on the need to always engage the services of a professional who knows how to build a brand, you also have professionals, you also have professional advertisers who are into broadcasting or print media, as it were. But at the same time, I think advertising practitioners also have a responsibility. If you look around the country, you discover that the bulk of the support that we have, or the ad spend in this country, 90% will go to entertainment. And that's because erroneously, organizations believe that, okay, that's where we're going to achieve our mileage, forgetting that for as long as we continue to shy away from our responsibility of building a nation that is stuffed with manpower, we cannot all be entertainers. Because if you do not encourage, for instance, other sectors of the economy, how do you begin to even educate the mind such that what you're saying now will be appreciated by the common man on the street to understand that, look, a Buhari, for instance, as a brand, that there are core values that must be presented.
Absolutely.
That would perhaps, if you like, continue with what APC did to get him in government, because that essentially is beginning to decline.
So let me talk about that very briefly before I answer your question. APC ran a very efficient campaign based on change. Incredible campaign, well thought out, it worked. Now, between the end of the campaign and now, the only time you hear about change is when opposition talks about it in a negative way. I have prepared a document and I've shared, with them that change is such a powerful instrument, it's such a powerful concept that it shouldn't end with a campaign. It should drive the entire regime, because change is a continuum. As long as you are improving, you are talking of change. And if they don't do this on time, they lose the momentum. If you come back later to talk about change, the gap is there. Somebody is going to ask you, what change are you talking about? You haven't been consistent in delivering the values of change. And again, it comes to what I told you earlier. There is a gap between knowledge and execution. That gap is supposed to be filled and managed by professionals. For as long as we use professionals in itself, I was the pioneer secretary of the rebranding project under Dora Akoyili, and I was the pioneer CEO. And one of the biggest challenges that the Honorable Minister and I had was to convey to those in authority then the very essence of what we were trying to do. They thought we were just trying to run a campaign. We were trying to run a social mobilization campaign, not an advertising campaign, that would change the attitude and the way Nigerians thought. They didn't understand it at all, and eventually the thing, simply died an unnatural death. So this we are still doing to keep on managing in the private sector. If you look at a lot of what the banks are running as campaign, it's a me too. Or the ideas they are selling, because some of them now work with foreign agencies, are above the knowledge and understanding of the average Nigerian. Yes. So the things look good on TV, but I don't even think they do any communication text. Yes. Do people understand the message or not? It looks good, but you are not talking to anybody. They are wasting a whole lot of money. But what are we going to do? I mean, they own the checkbooks.
So what are you going to say about promoting just entertainment? Because between you and I, you know that what I'm saying is a fact. Clients want entertainment, and advertising practitioners, because most times they don't want to lose this client, will always go in that direction. Where
entertainment has to be within a context. It cannot just be entertainment for entertainment's sake. And that's one of the issues we raised when government was rushing towards our brothers and sisters in Nollywood. The fact that Nollywood is hugely popular in Nigeria and across the region does not mean that it automatically becomes a credible platform. Nollywood and its products have to be used within the context of a bigger strategic plan. It's not just enough to gather them in Abuja and when they are leaving, give them 50 million or 100 million, go and talk about the country. What are they going to say about the country? Somebody has to craft a message for them. They must understand the message. There are so many things involved, but we don't have processes. People just believe, call those 10 popular actors, let the president take photograph with them, go and write scripts. I mean, you are a professional, you know it will work. It has never worked.
Well, it has never worked, and I agree with you there, Lolu Akinwunmi. Within the past 20-23 minutes, it's been a refreshing moment with this amiable gentleman, a man who has actually paid his dues in the advertising world, not just in Nigeria or on the continent of Africa, but globally, Ogilvy is an international brand, and if you understand what they stand for, coming together with a Nigerian firm founded by Lolu here, Prima Garnet, means there's something they saw in him and his vision. So, my pleasure having this wonderful conversation with you. We are going to have another one to deeply talk about the roles of advertising in the redefining of the Nigerian mind.
It's a big subject.
Yes.
It's something incidentally that I have worked on. It's something that I have a proposal that is ready on.
Okay.
But you must find partnership. Those who understand
then we'll do another one on that. So at this point, we must take another break, but that will be all for the interview segment. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Alright, I'm afraid that the much time will permit on the show today, Chat to the Professional. For viewers out there, I can only but say a big thank you for making us a part of your weekly living, as it were, coming your way within the past 15 years. It's been rough, but with your support, we've had it running for this long. And with your support, I believe we are going to count another 15 years. But as the much time would permit on the show today, Chat to the Professional, come next week, we are going to be back with another wonderful edition. And for those of you who are in Abuja and environs, don't forget, come November 7th, 2015, we shall be having our 15th special anniversary night. I'm sure you must have seen the notices here and there to be a part of it, but, well, let's see how it goes. So till next week, I'll see you.
A chat's with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chat's with a professional. When smiles is all wood. A chat's with a professional. Oh, 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 oh. A chat's with a professional.